Welcome. We're working from the book of Proverbs in Gisborne Christian Fellowship at the moment. It's a teaching of practical everyday things, and I'm just going to read from the preamble, if you like. The book of Proverbs is a collection of moral and religious teachings in the form of sayings and proverbs. Much of it has to do with practical everyday concerns. Now, this book was written many thousands of years ago. Now, is it relevant today? And I think very much so. Some of the words are maybe odd to our ears at the moment, but they are very relevant. So I'm going to read a little bit from Proverbs 8. If you haven't read Proverbs 9 at the moment, which is where I'm going to go to, I think it's a good idea. Pick that up first, and then you'll get the idea where I'm coming from. So verse 1 has these words, and it says, "Listen, wisdom is calling. Reason is making herself heard. I appeal to all of you. I call to everyone on earth. Are you immature? Learn to be mature. Are you foolish? Learn to have sense. Listen to my excellent words. All I tell you is right. What I say is the truth. Lies are hateful to me." God doesn't like lies. God never appreciates lies. Now in chapter 8, as we said there, wisdom calls out to all. It's not an inclusive group, it's an exclusive, if you like. It includes everybody. Sorry, I'm the wrong way around on that one. It includes everyone. You know, there's no barriers here. It's there for us. From verse 22 in chapter 8, it actually tells you where wisdom comes from. It's worth reading. Yeah, it's a very powerful section. But we'll read on from chapter 9, and we find that wisdom has turned a corner from chapter 8. Chapter 8, wisdom was in its infancy almost, just growing up, learning. And that's what wisdom is all about, learning, picking things up. So wisdom is learning by walking around with a father, picking up details and information and knowledge. Now in chapter 9 she's moved across to maturity. She's no longer at her father's heels. It says here, now she has established herself. It says in verse 1, wisdom has built her house and has hewn out 7 columns to support it. Now that just makes me think of the fantastic pictures that we get of Petra, where the house, the temple, is hewn out of solid rock. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, but it's such a solid structure. And that's what knowledge is. It's a solid structure. So it says, wisdom has built her house and has hewn out, as the NIV puts it. She has hewn out 7 pillars to support it. Wisdom is ensconced. Wisdom is anchored in the world. She's not a fleeting glimpse. Once you get wisdom, it stays with you. She's something we can rely on. Wisdom is the font of understanding and knowledge. Why, you may ask, is wisdom referred to as a she? That's a very interesting point. There are many sections of the Bible which extol the virtues of the female, a bringer of capabilities, concerns. The female has an industrious nature and many, many other attributes. If you want to read more about that, just read in Proverbs 31, and the heading is Advice to a King. I'll read part of Proverbs 9. You'll see that the proverb itself is actually split into 2 parts, but I'll read the first section. And it's from 1 to 12. Wisdom has built her house and made 7 pillars for it. She has had an animal killed for a feast, mixed spices in the wine and laid the table. She has sent her servant women to call out from the highest place in the town. Come in, ignorant people. And to the foolish she says, come eat my food and drink the wine that I have mixed. Leave the company of ignorant people and live. Follow the ways of knowledge. If you correct conceited people, you will only be insulted. If you reprimand evil people, you will only get hurt. Never correct conceited people. They will hate you for it. But if you correct the wise, they will respect you. The wise wants to absorb the knowledge, absorb it. Anything you say to the wise will make them wiser. Whatever you tell the righteous will add to their knowledge. To be wise, you must first have reverence for the Lord, and that's an important part. You must care what the Lord thinks, and I'll go into that a bit later. If you know the Holy One, you have understanding. And this is a final one in this particular section. It says, wisdom will add years to your life. Yeah, interesting. So what's this food they're talking about? She's talking about killing an animal, and she's providing us with wine. But what is this? It's a free gift she's offering. She doesn't mention sending out invitations or anything like that. She just has offered it to everyone. Yeah, everyone can come. And the food that she's offering is the food of knowledge. The knowledge and understanding. The NIV Bible uses the word simple to describe the people who wisdom is offered this food. I prefer the word ignorant because that sort of implies a lack of knowledge, not an inability to accept teaching. We are all ignorant until we are taught. Don't you think? But Proverbs also gives us an insight into the world of man. Some people will never accept knowledge, change, or reprimand. These people are in denial. They think their world is perfect and it doesn't need any modification or altering. They are happy with their lot. Why would they need wisdom? They're getting on just fine. Why do they need more knowledge? In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 11, verse 15, are these words: whoever has ears, let them hear. A strange thing. We've all got ears, but why, when you have ears on your head, you can't hear? Well, some people will never open their ears. Some of the people will never listen to what is said. Their thirst for knowledge has dried up. God's words are lost on them. They don't want to know. You see, God opens the ears of those who want to listen to his voice. That's the voice of wisdom and knowledge. I said there was a second side to Proverbs 9. And it mentions the complete opposite to wisdom. And that's, as the NIV puts it, folly. As the Good News Bible puts it, is stupidity. Stupidity, or lack of knowledge, has consequences. With stupidity comes temptation. Knowledge gives us a thought of things, and things aren't quite right. We are all tempted throughout our lives. There's none of us perfect. Temptation comes from all sorts of different channels and angles, really. You know, look at the television all the time and there's adverts for this, that and the other. Oh, I can make your life so much better. Just grab this, you know. Chance of a new car. A fancier house in a better area. That big television that would cover half your wall. These in themselves aren't a problem. The problem arises when temptation leads you to buy these items, these things, these trinkets, when you can't really afford them. The logic goes out of the window when temptation says, I must have them. Wisdom, on the other hand, would say, oh, slow down a bit. Let's think about this. You know, that cooling off period, that time when you have to think a little bit before you sort of make that final decision. And so wisdom says, whoa, slow down. Can you really afford that? You perhaps can't. Stupidity, on the other hand, or folly, would say, where do I sign? Come on, give me this good thing. Give me this. You see, God gives you wisdom. And like so many of God's gifts, like all of God's gifts in fact, it's free. But he also gives us a conscience to say that if I do something, what's the consequence of that? You know, the old saying, there's no free lunch. Whatever you do in life tends to have a consequence. Consequences can be good and some can be not so good. And God gives you that conscience to have that thought. You see, God's word, and it comes throughout the Bible, is a word of building people up. God doesn't want to see you flounder or fail. God has a plan for all of us. We are allowed to deviate from that plan, or we're allowed to not listen to that plan. You know, it said before, those who have ears, let them hear. If you don't hear, because you don't want to listen, there's consequences. But God has this promise, and it says in Jeremiah 29, I alone know the plan I have for you. And God has a plan for every one of us, if only we have the ears to hear. Proverbs 9 verse 13 to 18. Well, what do you think? I'm going to read that to you now. And it says here, stupidity is like a loud, ignorant, shameless woman. She sits at the door of her house or on a seat in the highest part of town and calls out to people passing by who are minding their own business. Come in, ignorant people. To the foolish she says, stolen water is sweeter. Stolen bread tastes better. Her victims do not know that the people die who go into her house, that those who have already entered are now deep in the world of the dead. Stupidity can lead to all sorts of things, can't it? It can lead us into all sorts of situations in bad things. God tries to steer us away from that. Stupidity. The Bible tells us in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 4, verse 1 to 11, how he, and that's Jesus, we as Christians believe to be the Son of God, that's Jesus that we're talking about, also was tempted. He was tempted by the devil. Just read the front end of Matthew's Gospel and it tells you the devil tempted him and offered him all sorts of good things, if only he would bow down and worship the devil, the Son of God, worshipping the devil. Doesn't work, does it? You see, there is a word embedded in the word devil, and that's evil. Sometimes we're tempted by what seems good, but in fact what actually happens is there's evil intent in there. The devil wanted Jesus to submit to him. The devil is a liar. He offers all sorts of good things. Temptation is one of his good things. Only God can see your future and the good things he has for you. And don't forget, all God's gifts are free. You can't earn them. We all can be tempted. But Lord, don't let yourself be tempted because of your folly or stupidity. If you're not sure, make sure the thirst for wisdom and knowledge comes to the forefront. You want to learn about these things rather than taking that step into the unknown. God says through Paul's letter, in his letter to the Christians in Rome, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Our God never wishes you any harm. He wants you to live a charmed and gifted life. Yeah, it can be difficult sometimes, but you're not alone. Jesus was tempted, but he said no. The devil didn't lead him down that path of destruction. Life can be full of ups and downs, but as Christians we aren't alone. Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. That's what he's called. Emmanuel, God with us. And the good thing about it, God will never leave you. Jesus has these words for us, and they're as relevant as today as they were when they were written. And it's from Matthew's Gospel. And this shows you the possibilities of life, the ways we can follow in life, the routes we can travel. And it says these words: enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. Sometimes the wide gate is the obvious one. Sometimes the wide gate is the easiest one. And as I said, being a Christian is not always easy. And it goes on. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life. That's the difference. And only a few find it. Lots of people run headlong into destruction. Don't be one of those. But small is the gate. Sometimes you have to look for this route. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life. And it's life in abundance. You know, I spoke about all the good things that God has got for each one of us. These free gifts. All you have to do is ask. And few find that gate. But with Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God at your side, that way becomes blatantly obvious. He walks by the side of you every day. He's only a little way away. You can put your hand out and touch the Son of God. Because he said, I will never leave you or forsake you. And that means forever. That means God will walk with you. Proverbs 9. wisdom. Search for wisdom and knowledge so that you can have a brilliant life. Can I just close with a prayer? Lord, we thank you that you offer us all these gifts for free. Lord, we know that you love us. We know that you want to be our friend. And all we have to do is ask. Thanks for listening. Proverbs 9. God bless.